Hello, beautiful people. Dawn, your tarot teacher here. Join me now as we continue our learning journey and step into the card of the Chariot. This is a powerful turning point in the Fool's journey. After absorbing the wisdom of the first 6 archetypes, self-awareness, duality, choice, structure, love, the Fool now steps into embodiment. Everything learned so far is gathered into one force: willpower, discipline, and centered control. The number of this card is 7, which is a sacred number and carries deep spiritual and mystical significance. It resonates through the 7 classical chakras, the 7 sacred planets, the 7 stages of alchemy, and the 7 levels of spirit. It's the number of spiritual mastery, not through dominance, but through equilibrium. This balance is held across all planes: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. The Chariot is linked to the Hebrew letter Chariot, meaning fence or enclosure, a sacred container for the soul's journey. This symbol speaks to the protective, intentional space in which spiritual will is cultivated and directed. In Kabbalah and the Tree of Life, the Chariot travels the path of Chariot, which connects Bina to Gambora, and if you remember, a path is one of the 22 connecting lines between the 10 Sephiroth, each representing a spiritual lesson or energetic bridge. Bina is the divine feminine principle, the womb of deep intuitive wisdom, structure, and sacred containment. Gambora is the force of divine discipline, the power to set boundaries, act, and move with clarity and strength. The Chariot moving along this path becomes the vehicle of spiritual will, carrying the soul from inner understanding into outer mastery. It teaches that true movement forward requires both wisdom and discipline, and that spiritual progress must be rooted in deep inner knowing. This path is also part of the central pillar of balance, showing that the Chariot is not driven by extremes, but by the integration of opposites: emotion and reason, intuition and action, feminine and masculine. Now let's take a closer look at the imagery of this card. The charioteer stands crowned, enclosed in his protective vehicle. His armour bears crescent moons, symbols of cycles, moods, and emotional tides. These moons remind us that emotional mastery isn't suppression, it's the ability to hold a peaceful centre through all phases. On his shoulders, the faces of comedy and tragedy can be seen, which speaks to this truth. The comedy and tragedy masks, often called theatrical masks, are powerful symbols of the duality of human emotion and experience. So what does mastery mean? Mastery isn't perfection. It's the sacred art of holding both joy and sorrow, light and shadow, all opposites within, while choosing to remain anchored in your soul's stillness. It is embracing the full spectrum of emotion. Before the Chariot are 2 sphinxes, one black, one white. They both rest in stillness. They represent polarity, expansion and contraction, force and form. Like the High Priestess's pillars, they echo duality. These sphinxes also symbolize the senses, the elemental drives that pull us into the material world. But notice, they are not moving, and the charioteer holds no reins. Instead, he steers with a wand, which is a symbol of conscious will. This is not control through force, but through alignment of mind and spirit. On the charioteer's breastplate sits a cube, and the chariot enclosure is a cube shape. The chariot itself is a sacred vessel of manifestation. The cube is a sacred geometric symbol representing structure, stability, and the material world. In esoteric teachings, it often symbolizes the soul incarnated into physical reality, spirit choosing to experience life through form. In both the Chariot and the High Priestess card, the cube shows that even divine consciousness must root itself in form, whether to move through life with purpose or to sit in stillness and receive wisdom. The cube is stability, structure, and the ability to navigate 3D reality with spiritual awareness. On the front of the Chariot, we see the emblem of Shiva, the cosmic force of transformation in Hindu tradition, which represents the union of spirit and matter, the divine masculine energy that dissolves illusion to make way for higher consciousness. This is represented in the symbol by a lingam and yoni, which are united, showing masculine and feminine energies in sacred union, generating all creation. This sits within a shield crowned by a winged solar disk, an ancient Egyptian symbol of liberation and transcendence. Here we see a hint to Eastern and Western esotericism, heaven and earth, masculine and feminine, all held in divine balance. Above him, the starry canopy connects him to the cosmos. Around his waist, the zodiac belt shows that his movement is aligned with celestial rhythms. He is the bridge between above and below, mortal and divine. Behind him lies the walled city, the past, the familiar, the roles and environments he's outgrown. Again, we see the stream of consciousness originating from the High Priestess, showing that he has crossed the river of consciousness. He's on the far shore now, ready to evolve beyond the first cycle of archetypes. The Chariot's esoteric titles are Child of the Powers of the Waters and Lord of the Triumph of Light, which speak to its sacred role as the soul born from emotional depth and spiritual intuition, now rising in victory through conscious will and divine alignment. Now let's look at the astrological and planetary correspondences of this card. Astrologically, the Chariot corresponds to Cancer, a sign ruled by the moon and aligned with the fourth house, the house of home, roots and emotional foundation and inner sanctuary. This brings in themes of protection, intuition, emotional depth and soul nurturing, not just in the domestic sense, but as a spiritual principle, the soul's need for a safe inner space from which to evolve. The element here is water, representing emotion, intuition, psychic awareness and flow, but in the Chariot, this fluid energy is harnessed through conscious will, allowing the soul to move forward with clarity, discipline, and divine alignment. The core meanings of this card are discipline, determination, willpower, and victory. It speaks to the triumph that comes not from force but from alignment, when the soul guides the spirit forward and the ego steps aside. This is the power of a centered mind, moving with purpose and clarity. The Chariot reminds us that true progress is not chaotic or reactive, it's intentional, focused, and spiritually aligned. Now pause and take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, where am I being called to take the wand and steer with conscious will? Where do I need to establish balance and self-control in my life or practice? Am I guiding my path from ego or from alignment with higher purpose? And what city walls or habits, roles and environments am I ready to leave behind in order to grow? Be sure to journal any insights as they come. The shadow aspect of this card warns of arrogance, egotism, instability, antagonism, and lack of self-control. When the will is uncentered and driven by ego or emotional reactivity, the vehicle veers off course. The Sphinx is pulled in opposite directions. Progress becomes erratic, and the soul's direction is lost in the noise of the mind. Shadow work with this card invites you to ask, am I forcing movement without alignment? Is my drive rooted in fear, pride, or avoidance? What part of me resists surrendering control to the soul? The Fool, having now met the Chariot, is no longer drifting but anchored in intention, protected by a spiritual will and equipped with the discipline to move forward. This is a moment of sacred integration. The lessons of polarity, emotion, and choice have crystallized into conscious direction. The Fool now understands that movement without alignment is chaos, but movement with soul is evolution. And so the journey continues. Next, the Fool will meet strength, not the kind that conquers, but the kind that softens. Strength is the archetype of inner power rooted in grace, where courage is born from compassion and mastery is expressed through gentleness. It is here that the Fool learns that true strength is not about control, but about surrendering to the heart. Join me next as we enter the sacred encounter with strength, where the lion is tamed not by force, but by love.